Hello, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite, well, what is quickly becoming my favorite motion picture trilogy, the Rurouni Kenshin live action trilogy based off of an awesome anime, and this is part one, Origins. The story centers around Rurouni, which is a wandering samurai named Kenshin, who, at the end of the Meiji Revolution, which a little backstory, at a time, the emperor wasn't the supreme leader of Japan. He was a figurehead, and the shogunate ruled the country. Well, there was a revolution where the revolutionaries wanted to put the emperor in power, and they overthrew the Tokugawa shogunate. Kenshin was one of the imperialists, and regarded as the strongest soldier in the war. He was known as, depending which translation or the movie or anime you go by, Hitakiri Batosai, Batosai the Manslayer, or Batosai the Kill Sword. He was super, super lethal. He was trained in a style called Hiten Mitsurugi, which is about fighting multiple opponents at once, and every move was pretty much designed to kill with one blow. Now, at the end of the revolution, and I'll get into this in a later video because after this, I'm going to do a lore video explaining certain characters' backstories that the movie left out that was in the anime so you can understand them better. And this review is going to be as spoiler free as possible, by the way. And then, before I review the second movie in the trilogy, I'm going to just talk about the first scene and how they nailed the main villain, because a big part of those films' success was going to be how well they did Makoto Shishio. Now, back to the film. Kenshin shows up in Tokyo. There's this guy going around claiming to be Batosai. He meets a woman whose father owned a dojo and she's running it now that teaches a sword style called Kamiya Kashin. They fight with wooden swords, and it's basically about the sword that protects life, which Kenshin, who went from being this epic killer, one of the most feared men in the entire war, to laying down his sword and picking up the reverse blade sword and taking a vow never to kill again. It really resonates to him, and a good portion of the movie focuses on the relationship with these two characters, while the main villain is this opium lord. He has a opium called spiderweb, which, think Breaking Bad and Walter White's creation. It's an opium equivalent to that, most powerful, most potent, most addictive. And he wants a international opium empire. He's trying to buy all the property in the area. Karu, who owns the dojo, refuses to sell. And this is where you get one of the first real fight scenes in the movie outside of a flashback. Kenshin first goes after the people because they try to bully her. He starts not drawing his sword. He even grabs his wooden sword, but when he draws his reverse blade, things get real, and he mops the floor with them. Which, these movies, all three of them, have the most incredibly amazing fight scenes. These are how you do action scenes. There's a scene later on in this movie where Kenshin and another character fight like 200 men by themselves. Anyway, after the fight, and again, I'm trying to be as loose on the plot as possible, but Kenshin gets arrested. We get introduced to another character that's really important in there, Sanosuke Sagara. Anyway, he gets taken out of the prison, and to his shock, his greatest rival, Hatajime Saito, now going by Goro Fujita, is working for the Meiji government. Now, Kenshin, we have the greatest assassin of the Meiji Revolution. Hatajime Saito was the captain of the third squad of the Shinsengumi, which they don't mention it in this film, but in the lore, the third squad was known as the Wolves of Mibo. And the Shinsengumi were kind of like that, their equivalent to our modern day Navy SEALs. And he was the leader of a squad of them, so that tells you how skilled this guy is. And they lay on the whole opium thing, and Saito is disgusted and thinks Kenshin's reverse blade sword is a joke. And he's at points in this movie trying to egg Kenshin to kill, which I'll get more into that later. Anyway, Kenshin knows about it, and at this point, we've also been introduced to a doctor, and she's the one that knows how to make this spiderweb opium. And again, without going into spoilers, there's a point where water gets poisoned and she has to help treat the people. And after it, she explains Kenshin her backstory to Kenshin, and well, she's had some really messed up things happen to her, and I'm just saying that to explain it's something all three of these movies do well. They blend great action with some pretty fun, light-hearted moments at times, and more serious stuff, and even this heavy, dark stuff. And it balances so perfectly that the comedy never softens the blow from the more darker, serious stuff. And the darker, serious stuff isn't done in such a way that it makes the comedy and other elements seem out of place. It's a perfect balancing act. At one point, when Kenshin meets Sano, there's a little bit of a fight, but the two of them quickly become friends. And Sano, if you've seen the anime, his personality's every bit as over the top as in the anime. Like, there's one scene in a later film where he rips a fence out of the ground. And it's not enough that he rips the fence, he throws it on the ground and he has to jump on it. And if you're familiar with the anime, you know that's exactly what Sano would do in that situation. Well, the Opium Lord, he has several people working under him. One of my nitpicks that the Oni Waban group wasn't in it, but I'll talk about that in my lore video. And I understand they're adapting 3 movies of over 100 episodes of anime. You have to trim the fat. You have to go to what makes the film flow better. So you get this epic 2 versus like 200 fight scene. A few really good fight scenes in the Opium Lord's mansion, which, by the way, the people they were fighting were former samurai that this guy was employing. You find that out at a scene with Saito where it's the traditional cop movie scene where the cop tells the bad guy, "Look, I know you're dirty and I don't care about proof. I'm bringing you down." Well, there's a scene with a Gatling gun, and again, sorry, I'm trying not to be spoilery, but I want this to come into play for later. There's a scene where Saito draws his sword while Kenshin and Sano are distracting the guy with the Gatling gun, and he does a flying leap with his sword towards the Gatling gun. I'm just saying that to tell you how fearless Saito is. Well, after that, the guy claiming to be Batosai, he does something and Kenshin has to go after him. There's a fight, and this guy again trying to get Kenshin killed. It's a theme. Kenshin is always being tempted to kill, and it's about him overcoming his past, overcoming his inner darkness. And then Saito again makes a comment to him, telling him after the fight, it's live by the blade, die by the blade. That's the only way for men like us. Kenshin and Saito always respected each other during the war, but for Saito, he's an old-fashioned man in a modern era. He's still a samurai. You can put the police uniform on him, in his mind, he is still a samurai, and he wants to go out like a samurai. And I think he wants one of three things. He either wants to be killed by the greatest opponent he ever faced with the death of a samurai, or that he defeats Kenshin but dies of his own wounds. He's not suicidal, but this is the only hope he sees left to go out like a true and proper samurai. The movie is a almost perfect adaptation. Yeah, they changed some things, but again, you have to do that for the flow of the film. Again, when you have so many episodes and you're compressing them into 3 2-hour and 15-minute movies, you need to do things to make it flow better for a movie. And this movie really nails it. So do the other three. I was not disappointed with any of these movies. That is not to say they're perfect, but the good things overwhelm the flaws to where it's a non-issue. The first film is Rurouni Kenshin Part 1 Origins. The second film is Rurouni Kenshin Part 2 Kyoto Inferno. The third film is Rurouni Kenshin Part 3 The Legend Ends, and it just gets better. If you like the action in this film, wait till you see Part 3, and wait till you see Part 4's 4-on-1 sword fight. Just let that percolate in your imagination. It's every bit as awesome as it sounds. Like I said, this is quickly becoming my favorite motion picture trilogy. It's just that good. And there are a lot of parallels to Star Wars, which I'll touch up in my lore video. You like this video? Hit like or hit dislike. You want to subscribe? That's cool. Leave a comment. Just hope you enjoy. Over and out.